Imagine this. You're strapped into the back seat of a military helicopter. The sun has just slipped below the ridgeline. The mountains around you are turning from stone gray to ink black. The pilot banks hard to the left, and the rotor wash kicks up dust so thick it swallows the last of the daylight. And then, your radio crackles to life. Something has been spotted on the ground. Something hot. Something that shouldn't exist. Welcome back, deep divers. This is Sleepy Deep Dives, the channel where we go where most won't, where we shine a light into the darkest corners of classified reports, military encounters, and government documents that were never meant for your eyes. And tonight we have something extraordinary. This story doesn't come from a podcast. It doesn't come from a Reddit thread or a blurry cell phone video. It comes straight from declassified United States government documents, intelligence reports compiled by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, released through the Pursue collection on UAP, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. These are not the ramblings of a campfire ghost story. These are field reports, intelligence assessments, written by senior officials inside the U.S. intelligence community, people with security clearances that most of us can't even fathom. People who know what our government's sensors can detect and what they can't. And on one night in late 2025, they saw something they could not explain. The report describes a senior U.S. intelligence officer, a member of the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, part of what's known as the U.S. Intelligence Community, or USIC. This person wasn't some hobbyist with binoculars. This was someone embedded in the very apparatus that monitors threats to this nation. And what that person witnessed, alongside 2 military pilots and a colleague, over the course of a single harrowing night, it left them, and I'm quoting the document here, virtually speechless. So settle in. Turn down the lights. Maybe, if you're the nervous type, keep one eye on the window, because we're about to fly into the dark. The story begins in the early evening, daylight hours. A senior U.S. intelligence officer, we'll call them the officer, along with a colleague and 2 military pilots, departed their Joint Operations Center in a helicopter. Now, their mission, on its surface, wasn't unusual. They were tasked with investigating a series of loud thuds that had been reported in the mountains on a military test range. Strange sounds, deep, concussive, like something massive striking rock from the inside. Ground personnel had heard them, recorded them, and nobody could explain them. But here's the detail that makes your skin crawl. Those thuds coincided with UAP sightings over the previous nights. Someone, or something, was in those mountains. And whatever it was loud. So the helicopter lifted off and set a course. Not along a nice, comfortable flight corridor at a safe altitude. No. The pilots flew what's called a nap of the earth route. That's military speak for flying dangerously, deliberately low, hugging the terrain, weaving through valleys, skimming ridgelines. It's a tactical technique designed to avoid radar detection. You fly so low that the earth itself becomes your shield. For several hours, they flew this way, through and around a mountain range on the test range, the rotor blades hammering the air. The shadows of the peaks swallowing them whole every few minutes as they ducked between valleys. During the sweep, they found debris, old rocket remnants, probably from decades of testing. Nothing remarkable. But then they found something else. A cave. But not just any cave. The classified field report, the USPR version, timestamps this discovery at 1751. That's 5:51 in the evening. They spotted a large cavern entrance in the mountainside, and according to the report, it had no visible end. Think about that for a moment. A cave entrance so vast, so deep, that from the air, even with thermal imaging and night vision, they couldn't see where it terminated. Just blackness, an opening in the mountain that seemed to go down forever. They didn't enter. Not yet. The day was getting on. They needed fuel. So they turned back toward the operations center to refuel and report their findings. The USPR report tells us that at 20:50, that's 8:50 p.m., they landed and dropped off their colleague. The officer and the two pilots stayed with the aircraft, and for about an hour, they rested, refueled, waited. But the night wasn't done with them. At 21:41, 9:41 p.m., the Joint Operations Center radioed in. Ground teams had spotted debris, or what they thought was debris, through their sensors. Could the helicopter crew go back up? It was fully dark now. The pilots switched their systems from daylight mode to FLIR, forward-looking infrared, and night vision goggles, NVGs. The helicopter lifted off into the black. 9 minutes later, at 21:49, the jock radioed again. This time the message was different. Radar had detected hits in the UAP activity area. Let me say that again. Radar hits, not a sensor glitch, not a weather anomaly. Radar contacts in the same area where UAP had been sighted on previous nights, in the same mountains where those impossible thuds had been echoing. The crew pushed forward. They arrived on station. The USPER report timestamps this at 22:02. They scanned the horizon, spotted what might have been an aircraft in the distance. And then the ground team, the listening post observation post, designated LPOP, reported something extraordinary on their FLIR system. They had detected an object on the ground, low to the earth, and it was registering as super hot. Not warm, not elevated, super hot. A thermal signature so intense that it stood out like a beacon against the cool desert floor. The object was moving, first east, then south, at what the report described as high speed. And then it did something that no conventional aircraft, no drone, no known military platform can do. It split in two. One object became two. And they changed direction, independently, as if they were alive, as if they had will. The pilots, looking through their night vision goggles, confirmed it. They watched the object divide. A smaller object emerged from the larger one, like a cell splitting under a microscope. Except this was happening in real time, in the night sky, directly in their field of view. And then, the object that remained on the ground, the original orb, it rose. It came off the ground and climbed, fast, directly toward the helicopter. Within 10 feet. 10 feet. That's the distance from your kitchen counter to your refrigerator. That's 3 meters. A hot, glowing, unidentified object with a thermal signature the FLIR system called super hot hovered within 10 feet of a United States military helicopter carrying a senior intelligence officer. The crew didn't panic. At least, the report doesn't describe panic. But can you imagine? Sitting in that helicopter, your NVGs painting the world in phosphorescent green, and this thing, this light, this orb, pulls up right beside you, close enough to touch, close enough that the heat should have been palpable through the fuselage. Then, as suddenly as it approached, the orb dropped below the helicopter and sped away. Gone. Into the dark. But the night was only beginning. At 22:18, just 16 minutes after they arrived on station, the helicopter crew looked out across the mountain range and saw something that defied description. Countless orange orbs, swarming in every direction. Against the dark backdrop of the mountains, which, keep in mind, they knew intimately at this point, having flown nap of the earth through them for hours that very afternoon. Against that familiar terrain, They watched countless orange lights swarming in all directions. The document uses the word swarming. Not drifting, not floating, not orbiting. Swarming. Like insects, like a hive, like something alive and coordinated and utterly, terrifyingly purposeful. This lasted for several minutes, and then the orbs began to organize. At approximately 22:27, two large orbs appeared right above the helicopter's rotor disc. That means they were directly overhead, above the spinning blades. These weren't small, distant lights. The crew described them as oval-shaped, orange, with a white or yellow center, like a burning ember, like something on fire from the inside. They flared up, side by side, two burning eyes staring down at the helicopter. Then a third orb flared to life, below the helicopter this time, and then a fourth. And the four of them arranged themselves into what the report describes as a T formation. A perfect T. Geometric, deliberate, intelligent. And then, in a detail that will haunt me for the rest of my life, they dimmed in reverse order. The fourth went dark, then the third, then the second, then the first, as if obeying a command, as if executing a sequence, as if they were showing off. Now, at this point, the Joint Operations Center had scrambled assets. The classified USPR report tells us that at 22:07, while the orb was still approaching the helicopter, the JOC had notified the crew that 5 military aircraft were now in the airspace. Fighter jets, already on a training mission, had been redirected to the area. 5 military jets. Into the dark, toward whatever this was. And what happened next is, in my opinion, the most chilling detail in the entire report. At 22:28, just 1 minute after the T formation appeared above the helicopter, similar orbs appeared directly above the fighter jets. Directly above them. Not behind them at a distance, not spotted on a radar screen miles away. Above them, matching their speed, matching their flight path, flaring up one at a time, horizontally in sequence, and then dimming in the same sequential pattern they displayed above the helicopter. The officer, the senior intelligence officer, the person with decades of experience in the U.S. intelligence community, remarked that the orbs appeared to be chasing the fighters. Chasing U.S. military fighter jets, the most advanced tactical aircraft on the planet. And these orbs, these lights, these objects with no visible means of propulsion, no wings, no exhaust plumes, no transponders. They were chasing them, matching them, move for move. The classified report gives us a timeline that the unclassified summary doesn't. At 22:33, orbs were spotted to the east, near a town, a populated area. At 22:41, a single orb appeared to the west of the site. These things weren't confined to one location. They were everywhere. At 22:49, another swarm. But this time, 3 distinct orbs arranged themselves into a triangle formation, a perfect geometric triangle. And then they vanished. Just gone, like a light switch being thrown. At 22:52, 5 to 6 orbs flared up simultaneously, this time in a horizontal formation. A line of fire in the sky. And at 22:57, as the military fighters began their descent to land to return to base, 4 orbs appeared directly above them one final time, matching them down, escorting them, or, and the report uses this word carefully, pursuing them. The classified document includes a detail that the unclassified version only hints at. The pilots, throughout the encounter, had been recording. They were capturing FLIR footage. But many of the sightings occurred above the helicopter, outside the FLIR camera's angle of coverage. The recordings exist. But they don't capture the full picture. They don't capture the full horror. The Orbs, the report notes, appeared to break off from the helicopter and pursue the military aircraft, as if they had made a choice, as if they had weighed their options, a helicopter or a squadron of fighters, and decided to follow the faster prey. Let's take a step back. Let's breathe. Let's try to make sense of what this report actually tells us. A senior U.S. intelligence officer, someone vetted, cleared, and embedded in the intelligence apparatus of the most powerful nation on Earth, witnessed, alongside 2 trained military pilots, an event that lasted from approximately 9:41 p.m. until the helicopter returned to the operations center at 11:16 p.m. Nearly 2 hours of sustained, documented, multi-sensory UAP activity. During that time, they observed a ground-level orb with a super-hot thermal signature, an object that split into 2 independently moving craft, an orb that approached within 10 feet of their helicopter. Countless orange orbs swarming against the mountains, ovals with orange glow and white-yellow centers, a T formation of 4 orbs that lit and dimmed in sequential order, a triangle formation that appeared and vanished, a horizontal line formation of 5 to 6 orbs, multiple instances of orbs appearing directly above military fighter jets and matching their speed and direction. All of this, all of it, is documented in a report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, released to the public through official channels. This isn't hearsay. This isn't a blurry photograph. This is a field report written by and about people whose entire careers are built on observation, analysis, and truth. And they were virtually speechless. That phrase, virtually speechless, appears in the original report. These are intelligence professionals, people trained to remain composed under the most extreme circumstances, people who brief generals and senators, people who have seen things most of us will never see. And on this night, they had no words. Now, I want you to consider something. The classified version of this report, the USPER document, was written by someone who was there. It has timestamps. It has operational details. It has the cold, precise language of a military field report. And even that language, clinical, stripped of emotion, designed to be dry and factual, even that cannot disguise what happened. Something was in those mountains. Something that made thuds that shook the earth. Something that hid in a cave with no visible end. Something that could hover within arm's reach of a helicopter without making a sound. Something that could split apart, reassemble, form geometric patterns, and chase the most advanced fighter jets in the American arsenal. Something that burned orange against the dark. So, deep divers, what do you think? If this story sent a chill down your spine, and I know it sent one down mine, then do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and, I cannot stress this enough, ring that bell. Because we are just scratching the surface of what these declassified documents reveal. This isn't fiction. This isn't a movie. This is the United States government's own documentation of encounters that defy every known law of aviation, every known technology, every known explanation. Every like, every subscribe, every comment helps this channel survive, helps us dig deeper, cover more documents, and bring you the stories that the mainstream media won't touch. The truth is out there, and it's closer than you think. Now, before I let you go, I want you to know something. This is just one night, one encounter, out of hundreds documented by the U.S. government itself. The PSU collection alone contains case after case of military and intelligence personnel encountering objects that they cannot explain, objects that violate airspace, objects that outperform our best aircraft, objects that seem to act with intent. And in our next video, we're going to take you to the other side of the world. Airline pilots, commercial flights, thousands of feet above the ocean, and encounters with objects that defied the laws of physics, observed, reported, and documented by the crews who fly the skies every single day. You won't want to miss it. So, stay curious, stay watchful, keep one eye on the sky, and we'll see you in the next deep dive. This has been Sleepy Deep Dives. Good night, deep divers.